News Corp and OpenAI, which is the tech company that created ChatGPT, have signed a multi-year content deal. News Corp, of course, is a multinational media and publishing company founded by none other than Rupert Murdoch.
We are familiar.
It owns several feels like an understatement. Yeah. A plethora. International and domestic titles, including the Wall Street Journal, The Australian, news.com.au. If we keep going, we will be here all day, but many, many titles. Now, under a new partnership, News Corp's content will be used to respond to ChatGPT's user questions. News Corp CEO Robert Thomson said the deal will set new standards for veracity, for virtue, and for value in the digital age.
So this was really big news last week, not just in media circles, but in general news. Before we go any further into the deal, can we just go back and explain exactly what OpenAI is? It's ChatGPT, right?
It is. So it was launched by Sam Altman, who we have dedicated many a podcast to, and Tesla owner Elon Musk, who we have similarly dedicated many a podcast to. It was launched in 2015, and the company's stated mission was to benefit humanity as a whole. As you said, OpenAI is most known for launching the conversational chatbot ChatGPT, and that can generate things like essays and poems and travel itineraries if you're me and going on your honeymoon.
Yeah, it was crazy. You told me last week that you asked ChatGPT the best route for your honeymoon and it gave you some information.
I'm lazy and I don't have time.
And my
ChatGPT gives me everything.
And my ChatGPT hack of the week has been if you upload a screenshot of a game into ChatGPT, it will give you the code to build that game. I mean, we're talking here about...
It's terrifying.
We're talking here about really powerful software. I mean, amongst our friends, most people are using it for things like writing speeches or holidays.
Every wedding speech we have been to, the dad has gotten up and made a joke about how ChatGPT has written the wedding speech.
As with any new technology, it's working its way into our lives in weird ways. But one thing it hasn't been able to do is give us reliable news content, right?
Yeah, and I think that us journalists have been incredibly cocky about this. You know, everyone else is fearing for their jobs in the age of AI, and yet journos haven't quite felt that in the same way because, you know, when you go onto the current free version of ChatGPT, and I went in and typed in, tell me the latest about Julian Assange, for example, big news story. It came back with, I'm sorry for any confusion, but I can't provide real-time updates or information on events occurring beyond my last training data in January 2022. And so that is going to this idea that AI tools inevitably need to be fed the information from somewhere and on a recurring basis, and they need to be made smarter, and that needs to be a reflection of the kind of ever-evolving nature of information. If the last time this bot was taught about Julian Assange was in 2022, it's got a lot of learning to do.
Yeah.
And so that's why this deal with News Corp is such a big deal, because basically News Corp has agreed to let OpenAI use its content to support ChatGPT's responses and its learning and to enhance the knowledge of its database and systems.
So basically in your Julian Assange example, it could scrape News Corp's newspapers from all over the world and give you an answer in real time.
Yeah, exactly. And so News Corp on their behalf have said that it's sharing its resources to ensure the highest journalism standards exist across OpenAI's products, which is interesting. On OpenAI's side, the CEO, Sam Altman, said the deal was a proud moment, and he said it was setting the foundation for a future where AI deeply respects, and I think that's an interesting word, we're personifying AI here, enhances and upholds the standards of world-class journalism.
Okay, so right now News Corp is saying, OpenAI, you can have access to a significant volume of information in real time. What are they getting in return?
Money.
Got it.
We don't know the specifics of the agreement because that's not been made public by either News Corp or OpenAI.
Yeah. But
News Corp would be getting a lot of money out of this. And we had some News Corp publications reporting on the deal that said could have been worth more than $250 million US, so around 380 million Australian dollars over the next 5 years.
So ultimately a whole new revenue stream.
Yeah, and we know that in Australia, Meta has ended its funding for news organisations, including News Corp, and that would have left, you know, a gaping hole where those millions had been coming in from Meta. And so it's interesting that News Corp has now kind of pivoted and is now getting that money from another tech giant, which is OpenAI, the new kid on the scene.
Is News Corp the only news company to have signed a deal?
They're not. I mean, I can confirm that the Daily Aus hasn't been approached for a multi-million
Maybe it's
dollar.
now spam.
Maybe. Check it after this. But no, there have been other deals met. So we know that Politico, which is a political publication, an international one, the Associated Press and French newspaper Le Monde have also got agreements with OpenAI.
So there's clearly now a bit of a playbook for media companies that's emerging of go to the AI companies and do a deal. But are there other ways?
But those are only with OpenAI. That's one AI company, just to be clear.
So are there other ways that news companies and AI are beginning to work each other out?
Hello, I'm James and I produce the video you're watching. If you're enjoying what you're watching, we'd love it if you considered subscribing and checking us out on our other platforms. It'd really help in getting the word out about what we're doing here at TDA. Thanks very much, and now back to the deep dive.
I think it's a good question. I think that this is the big conversation as media companies strategize. You know, we put our heads together in our newsroom and figure out what we can do with AI. This is happening in every single company around the world.
Yeah.
Like, you can just imagine the millions being poured into getting management consultants in to come up with, the next AI strategy
think of it
for
in
X
healthcare
company.
or in, information technology. It's everywhere.
Exactly. And so obviously the News Corp deal is one way to work with AI companies, and it's a fairly big step because, as I said, they're giving access to their content straight to these AI companies to make their machine learning smarter. But there are other companies taking smaller steps. Sam, here at TDA, we have been looking into, for example, whether AI tools can make some video editing a bit quicker. We film every single podcast that we do. You can go watch this on YouTube if you're that way inclined. We have 2 cameras, and there are AI tools that can switch between those cameras automatically. And that takes out a bit of the manual labor that goes into editing, this 10-minute podcast for YouTube. I mean, that's a very small step, but it's something that AI can do. When I look to the rest of the industry, I was looking around at how other media companies in Australia are dealing with it. And I saw Channel 9 has recently started using a product called 9 Express. And that's to reformat their TV scripts into digital stories.
Interesting.
So Channel 9 houses, of course, a number of different companies underneath it. And we have the print journalism, there's the TV journalism, and then there's the digital journalism. And so in a disclaimer on their website, 9 says, 9 Express makes things easier and quicker for our producers and journalists across television and digital. They've then made really clear in a how it works section how they're actually using the AI. So they say, and I quote here, a television script contains a number of technical terms and jargon, so it can be used for a news report. We take this originally created script, which has been written by a television reporter and producer, and then fact-checked and input it into 9 Express. It is then reformatted to be used as a digital text story. It is checked again by a producer before being published. It ends by saying that 9 remains committed to using new technologies in a transparent and responsible way.
And in that very detailed setting out of exactly how this process is working for 9, I think you can start to identify some of the risks that are involved with AI. And for the majority of this podcast, we've talked about the opportunities that AI can present in newsrooms. But the reality is, as that 9 disclaimer mentioned, there are major ethical and moral issues that arise in the relationship.
You have to be responsible. Exactly. And we've seen some of those issues arise in other settings. So if we look internationally, at the end of last year, the New York Times launched legal action against OpenAI and against Microsoft, which has invested billions into OpenAI, for using the New York Times as news content without permission.
Right.
So basically doing the News Corp thing, but without any of the money or the recognition.
Got it.
In doing so, the New York Times claimed AI-generated content threatens the Times' ability to provide journalism. They claimed that OpenAI is taking materials from the New York Times to train the AI, but they're not crediting or attributing that work to the New York Times. According to the Times, the AI chatbots seek to free ride on the Times' massive investment in its journalism by using it to build substitutive products without permission or payment.
Now, the doubter in me would say that News Corp have gone to the table and done a deal with OpenAI, and the New York Times have done things a slightly different way and brought a lawsuit that could inevitably end in a deal. Yeah. It's just kind of two roads to the same destination. But I think the bottom line here is that AI is going to be built into every industry on the planet, and news is no different. And this News Corp deal is a real big signal to the market from the biggest media company in the world that this new technology is here to stay.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us on the Daily Aus this morning. Hope you had a wonderful weekend and you're off to a good start to your Monday. We'll be here every day this week, so we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Until then, have a good day.